Hello. Hello. Anyone around here speak basketball?
Taking Bobby Webster.
This is Adam Silver.
Trust in Messiah. Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks
Basketball podcast.
I am your host, Freddie Rivas. And who, sir, in, I believe that's a vest? Are you?
I'm the producer, Matt Duncan, not wearing a vest, but yeah, it does look like I've got a classic, late 90s Gap vest on. You're right, that you wear with like a dark shirt. I did rock that a little bit in high school, so thanks for that callback. But no, I'm just wearing a dumb t-shirt, which now I'm gonna look at it like it's a vest tee, a faux vest tee.
It's it definitely seems like you are like you wear your sunglasses at night type vibe, like if you're snapping your fingers on the corner wearing that and sunglasses. I think, you could definitely start a musical or like scare some teens.
You can't see them, but I'm wearing the biggest pair of cargo shorts you've ever seen.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope that there's at least 700 pockets and a couple rolls of tape.
Oh, God.
But if you're tuning into this podcast for the first time or you're coming back, thank you. We're with Raptors Republic. We are like a Raptors / NBA hardcore pod. So if you're a hardcore basketball fan or, if you're a new basketball fan, you've arrived at the right place. And Maddie, if people want to help us out, help us grow, if we are going to become the next Dax Shepard and have like a empire of pods, like how can people help us do that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the mountaintop right there, Dax Shepard. What we want to do, we've got our links set up. Our link trees are all set up on our Twitter and our Instagram. That's going to take you to everywhere you need to go. You want to watch us on YouTube? Link is there. If you want to go to raptorsrepublic.com, you can listen to us there as well. You can read all the awesome articles and stuff that come out, as well as listen to the other podcasts that are a part of the Rapcast, which is what you need to subscribe to on the podcatchers if you want to hear us every week. And dunkspodcast.com. That's our website. It's been rebranded. It's looking crisp. So you're free to watch and listen there as well.
Damn right. And I think, we can get going here pretty soon, but I will say, as I've been saying, free Brittany Griner. If it's something that you're unaware of or haven't been paying attention to, get involved and make some noise. It's absolutely horrible thing that we should all be upset by. Okay, Lisa, let's get into it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to start with KD stuff.
Oof.
We actually, I heard, Sean Woodley and Vivek on Locked On talk about some of the KD stuff earlier than our podcast. Just, trade situations. Obviously, I heard it from Lowe originally, and we led with it. Like, would you trade Scotty for KD hypotheticals? And I feel like this is our first Raptors Republic pod where we got a little bit of heat for it, as a kind of like a clickbaity thing, but it's turned out we were kind of on the money, and it's even if we're not going to entertain that idea, it has circulated for a long time. Not just Scotty, all types of Raptors trade machinations for KD, and then also the adjacent storylines that is like Ayton and like how the Raptors are involved in these conversations with the Nets, with the Suns. Are we facilitating? Are we a third team? Obviously at Summer League, there was the sighting of Masai with Woj and Marks as well. So people are speculating there. And I guess my question is sort of like, as a Raptors fan, as an analyst, what's your major takeaway from like how the Raptors are discussed? And I don't necessarily mean through the like American lens. I just mean right now, the way people are talking about the Raptors. What does it make you? How does it make you feel? What's your takeaway?
Great question. So I think the biggest takeaway for me is that it is mostly through the American lens, where the Raptors, probably because of what Masai did with Kawhi not long ago, we are in actual discussion as like a team that like a major superstar could go to and win a championship. It feels like before Kawhi, it was like, there's no chance we're ever getting a big player, you know, at any time, blah, 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 through trade or otherwise, just because like that doesn't happen. But Kawhi totally changed that for us. Now we're like actual contenders. Obviously, we won the championship. People kind of want to come here. And we've built a really good reputation about like who the Raptors are, what the city is, you know, our coaching staff, the development, the team dynamics, the culture, like, you know, I can't say enough good things about Masai for that. And I feel like people are recognizing that. People can see that Toronto's not like, we were never a small market team, but we were always treated like a small market team. And I feel like the KD talks are kind of proof that we're not just that anymore, which is kind of nice. You know, it's like nice to be noticed and whatever. Like, that's cool.
Hey.
Yeah, internally within Canada, I feel like it's it's such a gong show. Like everybody wants or doesn't want KD, and like there's just so much speculation without having no real data on anything. At the end of the day, you got to trust in Masai. You hear all the rumors coming out for like what they actually want for KD. Like the Nets are like, in my mind, it's totally ridiculous, and you know that Masai is not going to make any dumb move. Like he's not gonna. He's just not going to do anything dumb that's like against the core team values. So I completely appreciate that. But I feel like the Raptors fans are like rabid for another championship immediately. So everybody's like, yeah, it's like the Kawhi thing all over again. We'll give away everybody on the team just to get Kevin Durant to score 100 points on his own every game and win the championship, which is not my preference. But I feel like Canadian media needs to like calm down a little bit, but I do appreciate how the American media is now taking us seriously. I feel like it's going to only bode well for us in the future now with other stars.
Great points all around. I mean, like, I feel like the visual I'm getting from what you're saying is sort of like, you know, there's this almost like American like hat tip to like what the Raptors are, and that like we're not a joke anymore. We're a serious place. We've won a championship. I don't know if we have a direct comparison. Like sometimes I think like, is it Dallas? Is it this place that's sort of like won once? So people know it's like there's a legitimacy, but also it's not like a major destination still. But yeah, we're like kind of like we've proven that we're this like well-oiled machine. I mean, obviously, you know, people always talk about the Spurs. I think the Spurs still kind of exist in this weird world where they ran such an amazing ship for such a long time, but still didn't really get major free agents, you know, or like, you know, I guess they got LaMarcus Aldridge, but that seemed like it was the beginning of the end, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like there's this legitimacy to who we are and what we do. Like the you know, trust in Masai is real, right? I think the rest of the league recognizes him. The rest of the league recognizes Nick Nurse. And I think for me anyways, that the league really recognizes that we have, you know, arguably the best contracts in the league and the best, like, you know, I hate calling players assets, but everyone on our team is good and everyone is tradable and no one's overpaid. So it sort of puts us in this like hyper malleable place. And, you know, to your other point, I feel like is key. I think like calling the Canadian reaction to Gong Show is the only way to describe it, because you're tapping into like deep Canadian insecurity, first of all.
Totally.
And then also you're tapping into this like will to be like, hey, you know, like we think that a championship is like simple and you just trade for player X who's the best and the end, which is, you know, I mean, I've talked about it like ad nauseum on this podcast, but you know, the Kawhi did it alone is such a simplistic, unnuanced, unfair narrative.
Untrue.
right? And it sort of discounts everything that led up to that championship. You know,
Agreed.
depending on where you want to start. Maybe it's the Bargnani trade, maybe it's the arrival of Masai, whatever. But there's just so many iterations of like different things that happened, different outcomes, you know, like, yeah, whatever. Like there's a lot of different.
I mean, we all know it. The success of our last championship, you know, the shot against Philly, for example, which is obviously the most obvious answer, but it could have been so many things like, you know, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, like that whole team, the whole team was so good to begin with. But I think what it's led to, because of that trade and how stunning and shocking it was at the timeline, like we gave up our firstborn son, DeMar DeRozan, and you know, he will forever live in our hearts. But the fact that we did that and it yielded us a championship, I think a lot of the Canadian media and fans feel like maybe this is the exact same situation. You know, like we can give up I don't know, Pascal, Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, like we can give up our best player and get Kevin Durant and no problem, we'll win a championship at the end of the year. And it's like, nah, that's not how it works. That's not how it's going to happen. And Masai's smarter than that too, right? Like, so the all the talks and like, yeah, this reporting about like, oh, we saw Masai talking to Woj and like, or whatever. It's so overblown that it's feeding all of this nonsense. My guess is that Kevin Durant starts the season with the Nets. It goes at least until like November, if not December, before they're able to make anything happen. I mean, they're already in a situation with the James Harden trade, right? Like the Ben Simmons, how's that going to work out for them? And who knows what's going to happen with Kyrie? Like there's such a mess over there. P.S. I love that. But there's such a mess over there that they're asking for, it's like they're holding on to KD and they want something so big in return that they're probably going to have to let that ride out a little bit before they get anybody to do something big, is what I think. Unless
I think you're completely right. It's like I think the main takeaway is that we're like an organized, classy, you know, whatever, like group of people, and they're a tire fire, and and we're talking with them. But exactly. I think so much of what's going on is like different types of leveraging. Like, you know, I'm not sure if I've said this on the pod before, but I also think there's like this sort of coy, you know, like facetious attitude that the Raptors management has a little bit. That's a little like, oh yeah, you wanted us to trade OG and you know, trade OG for a 7th overall pick and like Josh Hart. Well, like if we're talking about trading OG for real, like we're trying to net Kevin Durant.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's Masai being like, listen, you might not value my guys. You might want me to trade Kyle Lowry for Talen Horton-Tucker, but I'm trading Kyle for Precious, Thaddeus, and Koloko. You know what I mean? Like that's how I think. Like it's cool. I'm not going to panic. But yeah, good points all around. Maddie, I hope we didn't take away like all of the air in the room. I don't know, like we feel like we covered a lot of ground, but like, yeah, what's your take sort of like with, you know, how I guess people are speaking about the Raptors in general, like not necessarily in reference to KD, but like, yeah, I guess where we're at right now.
You know, I agree with you guys a lot, but I was going to come in with a bit of an opposite view here.
Okay.
I feel like the KD to Toronto thing is being, by a lot of people in the media, it's being viewed as like a banishment. Like he's Jon Snow in it. They're sending him to the North. We got to trade him everything we have that's going to like give us a chance at a future. And he's just going to like love it up in Canada, smoking our weed and just, you know, like...
It's a weed angle for sure.
Yeah. And like
party with Drake, smoke a lot of weed.
Yep.
That's what Toronto is, right, America?
I mean, maybe a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I just don't I don't understand it. Like Masai, I don't know how anyone doesn't trust him more than any other GM or president in the league. The guy knows how to build a team. You know, he made that big Kawhi trade, which was just unbelievable. Like when does anything like that ever work out? And like, yeah, I definitely think that the Durant thing could work if we bring him here, but it's like, I'm happy to hear that the market is cooling on Durant. Like they're having to like change their trade and stuff because no one's going to be like giving them 4 first-round picks for a 34-year-old Durant who, you know, maybe in some pain, and he's still amazing, but like he needs Scotty there with him. We need a Scotty Durant duo. We need Pascal. We need those three guys. If we have those three guys, then yeah, I think we're going to the finals. But it's like I feel like there's this vibe that like, well, no, the Toronto's always going to be. We don't know what that championship thing was. That was just that was some wacky, miraculous thing.
Yeah.
And like they'll always be competitive. They'll be in the playoffs, but they're never gonna go back to the finals. Like that's what it feels like, and it's so ridiculous that like they I don't know. Is it the America-Canada thing? I don't know what it is, but the majority of the teams international or American, like why can't it be a story you're rooting for? Why aren't they actually rooting for Durant to come here? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, you're now speaking to the Chris Broussards of the world, and I think sorry to interrupt, Matt, but I think you also touched on I just want to say you touched on a really good point about like this getting little brothered, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like going back to what Elisa is saying, it's like it's a mixture of like we're validated. It's sort of like, man, that little brother is like can do 10 backflips, but like, can he do one more? And it's like this sort of thing that's like, wait, like, and then as a Canadian, it's kind of like, how many times do we have to prove ourselves? And is it infinite? And sorry, Matt, I feel like I interrupted you, but like, yeah, that kind of like othering that little brother, that We the North sort of thing, it's still present, right? Chris Broussard came out and he's like, trying to talk about like, the lack of diversity in Toronto, and like it's pretty clear he doesn't really know Toronto well at all.
No.
And we even have to talk about that, but like it's just sort of this idea of like it's almost like they're not actually entertaining what this is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that for Durant, it is kind of like, his legacy has taken a bit of a beating over the years. It's like he's kind of shown like he was in a perfect situation with Golden State. He had those other guys that could support him who were superstars. But like, I don't know what it is about like this, trying to get all these different superstars together onto one team. It's just like, it's proving that it's a very finicky thing, and it's not working for Durant. So why don't you come up here to the team where we've got Pascal Siakam, who's going to take another step? He said it, not me.
I agree.
Yeah.
And you got Scotty Barnes, just won Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
I think it could really, it could, bring his reputation back a little bit. He comes up here, he focuses, he wins, he maybe gets another couple rings, and then he's back in that closer to not GOAT, but closer to the GOAT kind of talk, I think.
Yeah.
So.
I will say, I do agree that it's been interesting to see the super team crumble in Brooklyn so mightily. Like because not only with like the big three that didn't work out, but like all those like superstar vets that they got for their bench, like those old guys that were big players that like ended up not being able to contribute that much because, oh wow, you need like young, fresh talent that's like up and coming and all that kind of stuff. Like the Brooklyn, when we played Brooklyn in the Tampa year, in the COVID season or whatever, the bubble, that team was like a bunch of scrubs, but they were good. It was like they had like Jared Allen and they
Chris
had, like,
Chiozza,
Dinwiddie, and like all of these players that like, we swept them because we were by far the better team, but they had like a glue that was like good, and you could see. And I remember saying at the time, like Brooklyn, like we should watch out for Brooklyn, whatever they're gonna do. But then they traded everybody away to get like, Blake Griffin and I don't even know, DeAndre Jordan and
like, wow.
You know what I mean? And so it's actually been nice to see that crumbling. And I hope that other teams kind of take note that like the super team doesn't really work, because I don't like it as much. It's like, it's not what you want. Having said that, I think that if the media is reporting like, oh, Kevin Durant's going to get banished to Toronto, like that's silly, because obviously we're the coolest city out there, and Kevin Durant would, I think, love it here.
Yes.
But I truly think it doesn't come down to him like not wanting to play in Toronto. I think he actually might want to, and I think it would be a great fit for him, and he knows that. I think it goes back to Brooklyn like holding out for all of our top players, and Masai being like, nah, you can't have them. Like, it's not feasible that we would give up all of our core strength just to get Kevin Durant, who might yield us a championship. I don't know, this year, next year, who knows? But I'm happy to fall, frankly.
And as like a dude who runs a podcast, it's so fun to be talking about this, with like a real, I guess, backbone without being like, theorizing how we could be relevant or could win a championship. It's like, it's a different mentality when you've done it before. Like, not that I did it, but like rooting for a team that's done it, and the mechanics and the things that were there are still there and actually better, I would say. Okay, let's go to you, Elisa, on this one. And we're not like hardcores as far as like, we were talking about this a bit before the podcast started. Like, we might not be able to explain the exact intricacies, but the very basic is, the transition foul, also known as the take foul. Raptors fans would recognize it from, watching DeRozan and Lowry do it for such a long time. It's basically, it's not a clear path, but it is a foul to prevent like bad numbers. Like it's you're kind of taking the advantage away and fouling, and then setting your defense. So the NBA is looking to get rid of that. They're going to give the offensive team a free throw and the ball back, which I like for flow of game. I think people always talk about what is a basketball play and what is not a basketball play. Like, we think about the 3-point kick out, like guys like, kicking their leg out to draw a foul. It's like, that's not really a basketball play. And I think this is not really a basketball play. So, and I'll never blame a player for doing it, right? They're looking for every single advantage, period. So that's fine. You got to change the rules. And I think this is a good rule change. So with that said, Elisa, and silly questions, or silly answers welcome here as well, if you don't have a serious one. But is there a rule you would change, alter, add, subtract? Like is there like anything you can think about as far as like the way basketball is played where you're like, I don't like this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start with the rule, which is, we were talking before. So it's not like at an end of game situation where you're giving a foul, where you have a foul to give and you give it and you stop the clock for whatever reason, right? This is specifically around the transition, right? Yes. So this is like, you're on offense and you cough up the ball, and then there's a fast break coming the other way, and then you foul them on purpose so that you can either prevent the dunk or whatever, set up your defense, etc. So I do like that rule as well, this change as well, because not only are like, stealing the ball breakaway dunks, they're fun to watch as like a basketball fan, especially when they're not happening against the Raptors. But also, the Raptors as of late have been notoriously bad free throw shooters and pretty good at defense. So we've been burned by this kind of transition foul lot, where like we're playing lockdown defense. We steal the ball. We got hands everywhere. It's, Gary Trent or Freddie or Pascal or anybody is like up in everybody's face. We steal the ball. We pass it out to somebody, Precious on the dunk, and then they foul Precious. And suddenly you're like, oh no, like, because we've been so bad at the free throw line last year. It was awful.
Yeah. So we're so good at transition. Yeah.
We're so good at transition we're so good at transition, but we're also, so bad at the line. So I feel like, this, not only as a basketball fan, when I'm watching other teams, is it going to be fun to watch a bunch of breakaways and everything? Because I love good defense. And if it leads to a steal and then points, it's amazing. But I think it's like specifically going to benefit the Raptors, and maybe this Raptors team specifically. Although I do hope that we have improved on our free throw shooting. Like, good God, I hope everybody has been in the gym every day taking 1,000 free throws. Now, what rule would I like to see change specifically? I had to think about this because, there's not a lot that I would like to see change, but I do think one of the things could be something around like the coach's challenge. So right now, each coach gets a coach's challenge, 1 per game. And if you are unsuccessful, you lose your timeout. And if you're successful, it's like, cool, but you still don't get your challenge. So I was thinking, you should keep your coach's challenge if it's successful. You know what I mean? So like you have a coach's challenge and you challenge it and it's successful, you should get to keep it as opposed to losing it anyway and, also keeping your timeouts. The problem there is that then you might have like an endless amount of challenges per game, which I know can really slow things down. So I don't know, maybe you have to have like up to a maximum of 3 or 5 or whatever, but that still means that like the refs aren't doing their job if you have to like challenge everything. But then I don't know, you don't want coaches challenging every single call if it's endless. So I would say like keep the coaches challenge, but at a max of like, 3 per game or something like that. But I also had a silly one. What if, because how players are also, I'm just going to keep going. You know how like a lot of players, they're like way superstitious. So if like, there's so many players like this, DeRozan was big on this and he still is. If they're doing bad at the beginning, they'll change their shoes. Yeah. There should be like a maximum 3 players per team can change their shoes once a game.
Oh, anti-shoe change. I see.
That's right. Well, you got to like really spread it out. They have to talk to each other, to be like, oh, my mojo's not there today. I think I got to change my shoes. And the coaches be like, you cannot change your shoes because so-and-so might need to change their shoes later in the game. And like, we really have to be able to monitor people's flow and let's see how that messes with their psyche. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm into the weird one is very good. Thank you. I think we're delving into like Elisa just like trying to mess people up. So that's good stuff. And your real one, it's interesting too, right? Because I feel like I've definitely seen Nurse or whatever different coaches be frustrated that they have to use their coach's challenge on something they know is right and then lose the challenge, and then there'd be a pivotal moment later and be like, shit, I wish I had my challenge.
Right.
So something like, because it does feel like there's a punishment for negatively using your challenge, and sometimes positively using your challenge. All you get is the call that was supposed to be made in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Maddie, what's up? What's your rule change?
Okay, I'm adding a rule, and I will state that I find it's a bit annoying, and it's going to annoy some people. I understand that. But I guess this is maybe coming from someone who's a hockey fan, and I'm used to this not being allowed. So what I'm trying to talk about in a roundabout way here is the shot after the whistle, the little practice shot that the players like to take. I don't want that to happen anymore. You can take your practice shots before the quarter starts, before the game. During practice, you can do all that. But like after you are lining up a 3-pointer shot and it doesn't go and you take a quick practice shot to get that feeling going, I feel like it's a bit unfair. So the only thing I would do is if someone does it after they're fouled and they're about to take 2 free throws, they only get one of those free throws. And if it's just them, like they're just getting ready to inbound the ball and they do it, then it switches possession. The other team gets it.
That's harsh.
Ooh. Yeah. So
harsh punishment.
Now, if you want to take a shot, you can do it on your own net. Don't you do it on our net.
Wow, Maddie. Okay, this is good.
This is like, just so I'm clear, this is like in game. I'm about to take a shot, but I get fouled. Whistle blows. I'm down on the ground again. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to the free throw line. Let me just take a shot to see the ball go in.
Yes.
You're like, no, that's not allowed.
No. Yeah.
Okay, because that is a psyche thing. It's true. A lot of players do that because they need to see the ball go in the net, right? Like it's part of their
these guys can all shoot. You see them in practice, they'll never miss, but it's all about the pressure of being in the game and the fans. And it's like,
totally.
I feel like it gives them a bit of an edge when they get that one practice shot in. And sometimes it's close enough in the score where it could mean you lose the game.
Well, we already see the defensive players sometimes like go in and like block it from going into the net, right? Like,
I love that.
They also know that. They're like, no, I don't want you to see the ball go in the net because they know it's also a psyche thing for sure. The punishment is harsh. But I like it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little too harsh. There's some wiggle room on the punishment, but
no wiggle room on the punishment. You're getting a Weird Al until you can't even sleep that night. You got to wear headphones. Weird Al just going and it's on you if you can't sleep. You know what I mean?
I would like to see the players. I would like to see the players like who still want to take the shot take it on their own net. Like they do like a quick like dribble up the court.
Yeah.
Shot.
It just
Go
takes
for it.
even
That'd be
longer.
hilarious.
Yeah, the game it'll add an hour onto all the games, but I'm there for the experience.
Mine is a bit flow of game, and I get it from a strategic standpoint. And maybe this is just like, like too specific, too nerdy of me, but I would cut the free throw shooter freeze timeout. So it's a free throw shooter. They get 2 shots. Maybe they're a bad shooter. They are about to take it or something, and somebody calls a timeout. Or they take 1 and someone calls a timeout. I think it's, for flow of game, for continuity, once they line up to take the free throw, it's like you can't use your timeout then. You have to wait till you have possession of the ball. If you are the team taking the free throw, then sure, that's different. But if you are the defensive team and it's like, a bad free throw shooter's coming up and you're just trying to rattle them, I'm like, I get it again from a strategic standpoint, but also I feel like it's just sort of like adds time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So mine's the most boring. Sorry, guys.
It's a bit boring. The problem also with that one is that it's like there's already a consequence to doing that, right? Like you lose your timeout. So the coaches already have to like grossly consider, is it worth it to freeze the shooter now? Because it's probably like late game situation, the score is within 1 to 2 to 3 points. And so the coach has to determine like, okay, this is the time I'm going to mess with the psyche of this player, as opposed to ride it out. Also, it can be to set up your defense once that your offensive player is taking the shot, but you're saying it would only apply to the defensive team anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? Just fun one before we get to the last question here. 3 points for an alley-oop. Okay. If it's an alley-oop dunk or layup, that's 3 points.
Nice.
Just to keep things exciting. That would, that's obviously horrible. I don't want no slam ball stuff here. You know what I mean? Just like insane alley-oops, people getting injured. We don't need it.
I want a 200-point game to be low scoring. So yeah, whatever's possible.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm with Matt. Let's like double the length of the game.
Let's extend the games to like about 6 hours, but also it'll go to like 250, 300 points.
We're going to push basketball way into cricket territory. 5-day games.
Listen to full episodes of the Confederacy of Dunks only on the Rapcast.